Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Within the next week, possibly week and a half, the President of the United States, who we're told close to 100 million Americans, more than Obama, more than any other president in U.S. history, wanted 4 years ago, is going to be essentially forced to resign. He's already essentially resigned, especially after the Stephanopoulos interview. We'll get to that tomorrow. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. You'll hear from some really, really great people, wonderful analysis in a couple of seconds. Hit subscribe to my super chat. I can't do this without you. If you want to support my work long term, the Patreon's below. To the members of this channel, I love you. Thank you. Everyone watching, I love you. Thank you so very much. And to the new people, hit subscribe. Thank you so much for even watching. Greatly, greatly appreciated. God bless America. God bless Joe Biden. I'm not like a wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat frothing at the mouth with venom and vitriol against Trump, a president that had record low poverty, record highs in household median income. First president to step foot in North Korea, gave more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever, and made the funding permanent. He has essentially, ladies and gentlemen, already resigned. The debate was by design, and also the Stephanopoulos interview was essentially another way to force him out. Okay, we'll talk about that interview in a second. Let's get to all of his allies turning on him. This is a very embarrassing moment for the country, ladies and gentlemen. I do not like this administration. I think Biden and the Democrats have been an abysmal failure. But I don't want the presidents of the United States of America to just be forced out. I think that this is Bernie Sanders times a million, what they did to Bernie Sanders in 2016. Now, I'm happy that Trump is going to win in a landslide. I'm voting for Trump. I did 4 years ago. He's the best president in my lifetime in terms of being an anti-war and pro-economy president. We had record low poverty with Trump. He brought home Americans from never-ending military conflict that Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, and Biden, who followed the Doha Agreement but completely botched it. It was a May 1st, 2021 withdrawal. But anyway, we see what's taking place with Democrats in the Oval Office. But look what Democrats are doing. This is like the movie The Truman Show. This is like Hunger Games. This is, they're so arrogant. They did the same thing in a fair and neutral primary with Bernie Sanders. Then they blamed the Kremlin for their despicable behavior. And then Bernie Sanders said, I don't want your help, Vladimir. And so they're so used to just manipulating and deceiving. And now the entire country knows this was a theatrical performance from day one. But hit subscribe to this channel. I think Hillary Clinton, yes, Madam Secretary, eventually will be opposite Trump. I don't know how, some way, somehow. But hit subscribe. Let's listen to some really interesting analysis, and we'll talk about this.
Are President Biden's allies in the media starting to turn on him? Take a look at this brutal cover from The Economist magazine. It mocks President Biden with an image of a walker and the presidential seal mounted on it. The headline, "No way to run a country." The paper's editor-in-chief adding more insult to injury.
I watched the debate like millions of Americans and was shocked.
How could you have been stunned? Did you not listen to our president for 4 years? Did you not notice that he communicated in the exact same manner he did during the debate? This is what happens when you have very intelligent, respected, morally superior, highly educated liberals in every country in the world. So The Economist, the UK, God bless the UK. Love my viewers in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, everywhere around the world, Canada, Nigeria, everywhere, Korea, everywhere around the world. Thank you. But how can you be stunned? Did you not hear him speak for the past 4 years?
to see a befuddled old man struggling to recall words and facts. Unfortunately, and this is brutally true, the passage of time goes one way, and the impact on mental acuity really only goes one way. And I think that's the reason that we were.
I've known 90-year-olds who are smarter, more intelligent, sharper, more eloquent than 20 or 30-year-olds. So that's not true.
We wrote what we did, which was pretty tough, I admit. And that's because this is the toughest job in the world. And you can't run a presidency on auto cue.
Even Joe Biden's fiercest media ally, Joe Scarborough, is sounding skeptical of the president staying in the race.
It is July the 5th. This happened 8 days ago, and decision time is not upon us yet. And though it may be coming soon, Republicans long idolized an aging Republican president whose decline was so bad it led an incoming chief of staff, Howard Baker, to commission a study of the 25th Amendment in case they needed to use it on Ronald Reagan.
What a disingenuous, deceitful lie. Just as deceitful as, Biden's videos. Those videos are cheap and phony and fake, and they're edited. And then a week later, we have to replace him. Okay, Joe Scarborough needs a history lesson on Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan won a landslide almost every single state in 84. I think he lost just one state. It was a complete landslide. From 81 to 84, the entire country voted for Reagan. He did experience some decline in 87, and 88, but that was after close to 8 years. Biden was making up words, slurring speech, looking like, what's that character in Jack Skelton in Coraline? Anyway, the point is we've known this for 4 years, even when he was campaigning the first time. And this man and everyone else was in on it. And they don't get a note saying, hey, do this for us. They're all liberal Democrats. They're all part of a political media public relations machine that runs on groupthink. It is very easy to manipulate groupthink. You don't need a memo.
So please, Republicans, please right-wing media outlets, spare us your moral indignation.
Joe Scarborough should look up how many states Mondale won and how many states Reagan won in 84. Again, these people rely on, you're talking about, they accuse Trump supporters of being uneducated. The average liberal Democrat listening to this man does not know recent modern U.S. history, does not know that that Reagan won a landslide in 84. They don't know this. That's why Scarborough is speaking to these people and trying to compare Reagan to
over a man who had a really, really terrible debate, but a man who's been the most effective president over the past 3.5 years.
I had enough of this bone-on-bone pain, so this is what I did. At first.
Okay, Tyrus.
I'm sorry. Listen, as a man who's been in Dutch with the wife a few times, that was a typical, he got sent home for a couple of days for acting out.
I was going to ask you, does Mika have a right to have Joe sleep on the couch? Because, right after the debate, he had a knee-jerk reaction like many of my fellow Democrats did, and now he seems to be dialing it back.
It wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. The one with the problem is the wife in this one, because this should be the reaction of every Democrat. Let's just take them. Let's just put it on me. Let's put it on, since I like the orange guy. Let's say I just found out that all the orange guy's policies and everything that he said was being done by Omarosa. I would not be a happy Republican. I'd be like, this person's been running the country and these are the things that have been going on and this and all this drama and cocaine in my White House and people having sex in the Capitol and all this stuff going on. And we don't know when the guy who runs the Pentagon's out sick. Like, this has been going on for, I would be furious as a voter. I'd be like, you know what? I'm not voting for you or anybody who's representing me because you misled me. So that's what my issue is. All this. These aren't backstabbing. These aren't jerks. These are buyer's remorse and going, hey, I invested in you and you love the country so much and you're going to save us from a dictator. A dictator doesn't leave when he can't do his job anymore. He stays till he dies. So if Biden cared about the Democratic Party when he started slipping, and we saw it a year and a half ago, it started getting worse, they should have been. This should have been him giving a grand speech about, I'm going to finish out my term as president and I can't do it anymore. And you know how much people would have got behind Kamala or whomever they picked? But because you chose to go lie and run and underneath them run progressive stuff that nobody voted for, not you or anyone else in the American people. So they're not the bad guys. These are the good guys who are finally stepping out. Some of them were in on it and they're bailing because they have buyer's remorse.
Yeah, Lisa, I want to ask you, do you get your news from the editor-in-chief at The Economist? I know I don't. I think we're going to agree on that.
I don't, but the American people should be furious at the media. I mean, you want to look at where we are in American history right now. We have a president who cannot operate outside of the hours 10 to 4 p.m. How is this not the biggest scandal in American history right now? And the media covered it up. Not only did they cover it up, but they condemned, they attacked those of us who told this truth. They called it cheap fakes. This is the biggest cheap fake in American history, what we're seeing with the media. The media is the biggest threat to democracy. Look, the American people expect to be lied to by politicians. You expect for a White House press secretary to go out there and to spin you, to get half-truths. But the media are supposed to tell us the truth. They're supposed to be the fourth estate. They're supposed to be the ones holding them.
Media sides with the Democratic Party. Media is composed primarily of wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize sometimes, and I thank you, Zena and everybody here defending me. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes I am late for the live stream. Please forgive me. Let's continue.
Accountable. And ever since Donald Trump walked down that golden escalator, all they have told is lies. You go from the Russia collusion, the Hunter Biden laptop story. They lied about what Trump said about Charlottesville. You look at these cheat fakes video. That was a lie. It's lie after lie. So that is a scandal. They are the biggest threat to democracy.
Joey, two things. She talks about lies. If it's bad that the Biden, allegedly President Biden, his administration, his White House is lying, is it bad that Donald Trump, who is a former president and running for president, is lying? One, and two, why is it bad if Joe Biden decides to go to bed at 8 p.m., but George W. Bush, who was under 60 years of age, went to bed at 9 p.m.?
I'll take the first one first. Okay, take lies out of it. I mean,
This is what Democrats do. They muddy the waters with minutia and nonsense. What they say is not, okay, so they will make an absurd statement, an irrelevant statement. Biden goes to bed at 8. He had a cold. The check's in the mail. It's a fair and neutral primary. They spoke about golf, Brexit, and grandchildren when President Obama's attorney general was meeting with Bill Clinton while Hillary Clinton was getting lunch and having a lunch or brunch with the bureau agent who then set up and framed Michael Flynn. We can go on forever. The point is, they make these statements that you can't completely contradict, but they're so outlandish that you'd have to be a fool to believe them. So they say, Biden had a cold and he goes to bed early. And it's like, well, what does that have to do with the fact that he's slurring his words? We've known this since 2019. The fact that media within a week, now here's the hubris and the arrogance, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is why the man is already resigned. It's just a matter of, just like when I told you, ladies and gentlemen, I told you, 9-0 Supreme Court ruling overturning the Colorado ban. It happened. I told you there'd be a huge immunity victory. It happened. I'm telling you they're going to overturn Trump's guilty verdict. It's unconstitutional. It'll happen. I've been telling you, if you watch this channel for 2-3 years, I have been telling you they're going to replace Biden. You can look, and I've talked about this in numerous segments throughout the past couple of years. They're replacing Biden now, and it's happening all by design. I think Hillary Clinton, they can't do Newsom. Whitmer has zero national appeal. The former first lady doesn't want to run. The only person is Hillary Clinton. And it'll be Hillary Trump. And it was always, we have never left 2016, but let's
take lies all out of it and tell me, is it worse to speak in hyperbole, or is it worse to be so apparently out of it that you can't remember the fact to begin with? Donald Trump will say something like, I'm going to get all those troops out of Afghanistan. And then he'll come back and say that, the plan is we're going to keep 2,500 there until the Taliban does this or that. Joe Biden says something like, my son died in Iraq. Do you know what veterans sitting at home feel when he says something like that? And now he's amended it to his son died because of Iraq. Let me tell you, I lost my legs in Afghanistan. If I fall down out there and get taken out by a Prius, I didn't die because of Afghanistan. There's a certain honor that comes for that, and only certain men and women get it. But he'll stand up there and use every tragedy his family has ever suffered to score some sort of political cheap point. Is that a lie? I'll let the voters decide if it's a lie, but it's absolutely demented as a political tactic, and half the time I don't know that he doesn't actually believe it. So when Donald Trump gets up there and says something that's hyperbolic, there are times when I cringe and there are times when I think it's funny. There are very few times that I think he's doing it because he thinks he's going to convince 100 million Americans that that is a fact. And I think that style of Donald Trump compared to what we're seeing in Joe Biden is very obviously different to the independent voters in those 5 swing states, one of which being Michigan, where people are swinging towards Donald Trump.
And that was brilliantly stated. God bless all the veterans and soldiers and their families around the country and who watch this channel. God bless you, and thank you for protecting this country, for your service to this country. Thank you. And this gentleman is 100% right. Trump, when he says, oh, it was the best economy of all time, and then the Washington, it wasn't the best in 1958. It was a better economy overall. And so they hyperventilate over, again, minutia. Like if it's hyperbolic, that doesn't mean it's the overall point isn't true. But then Biden will say, inflation was 8-9% when he took office. And he lies, too, all the time. Like CNN said only 10 lies. There were like 40 lies. And then they said Trump had 30 lies. If they use the same standard by which they judge Trump's statements as lies, you would get 40 to 50 lies with Biden. And Biden said that, you call it, they accused Trump of the most despicable statement about soldiers. He never stated that. He never said that, not even once. There's zero evidence. It's all gossip and hearsay. And then they point to it when Biden stated, you said this about our veterans. That was a lie by Democrats and Biden. That was a patently false statement. You cannot use gossip and hearsay and a made up, almost certainly made up, fabricated quote from a publication that exists only to disparage Trump, and then say it's a fact. But they do this all the time. They don't view it as a lie, Democrats.
I'm going to get the doctor. Doctor, I am somebody who believes that both candidates, and I think, honestly, anybody running for president should be, put through testing and cognitive testing, but not some of the cognitive tests that are out there that I've tried myself and I thought were pretty simplistic.
Well, we've seen publicly President Biden has taken 2 cognitive tests, and he has submitted those results for the American people in addition to his annual physical exam. Anybody over the age of 65 really should be having annual cognitive tests. Joe Biden, on the other hand, has not done that. And even on his annual health updates, they do not even mention his cognition. So I do think that it would behoove him to do that. The interview tonight.
You can measure mental capacity to an extent, by the manner in which somebody communicates. Now, it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be this Shakespearean, eloquent, you don't have to communicate in the most eloquent manner. You don't even have to enunciate, you don't even have to do that. But if you're speaking and then slurring your speech and then meandering off into a mumbled hushed tone and staring and gazing into the yonder, and you don't know where you're walking, and people don't know exactly what you're saying. Again, it's about not the way you communicate. Can you communicate? Okay, and this president cannot really communicate. We've known this. We've known this. And when you add in the fact that he's slurring his speech, they called it a speech impediment. They lied through their teeth. But you can't. But it's the Truman Show for these people, and America is the Jim Carrey character. They lie all the time, and then they say Trump lies. He's a con man. No, I wouldn't vote for Trump if he had private servers with top secret intel, a laptop with bribery and graft. If he was slurring his speech, if he was meandering off into walls, I wouldn't vote for him if other people were in charge. Democrats would. Democrats would, and they did. And now they're trying to convince everybody that they just found out and they were doing the right thing. This is the most deceitful, dishonest, disingenuous performance art you've ever seen in your life. This makes the DNC primary look actually fair and neutral, which was not. They cheated Bernie Sanders. They completely railroaded Bernie Sanders. But anyway.
You heard Brian Salter say it'll be, it's a live doctor's interview to see what his cognition is. No, it's not. It's a daytime taped interview. It is absolutely not that. But should he at this point have a cognitive exam? Yes, not because he's necessarily the president, just because he should. Anyone at his age should, especially if he is expected to have executive function. He is the executive of the United States of America. He absolutely should. And it is very disheartening that he has not been completely honest. To echo what Lisa said, I don't think it's the biggest scandal that, his decline has been, that's not the biggest scandal. It's the media's cover up of his decline over the last several years. In my opinion, that's the biggest scandal.
But you said over 65. So would that be fair then that any candidate over 65, Democrat or Republican, these two candidates,
I've been calling for that. Medicare recommends cognitive evaluations at your annual exams. That's why it's covered by Medicare. They should be getting it. And President Biden, unfortunately,
nobody needs these evaluations. We weren't talking, and I disagree respectfully. Nobody needs these evaluations. The Democrats did this all the time. We've spoken to people, and Trump he's probably, there's something wrong with him. There's something wrong with his brain. You don't need, this is the thing. You don't need a cognitive test if you are communicating in a manner that people can feel comfortable with, that the general public or that people in general can feel comfortable with. Okay, you don't have to be eloquent. You can actually have a speech impediment. It's not a problem. But, look what Democrats did. I don't even want to again. They're talking this whole thing about a test. Biden will take it, and then Democrats would say, "You see, perfect score." You can just use basic logic and reason. Okay, you don't need an appeal to authority. There's too many appeals to authority in politics. It's what completely tanked our economy, because a man who shall remain nameless and others said we should shut it down, shut down everything. And then they said, I never said shut down everything.
Has not been having it. Now, even if he had it, are they going to disclose that to the United States when they still want him to be there? And, it sounds like other people may be making decisions for him. They may not.
I certainly hope.
Look, like I said, God bless Joe Biden. I want to be as respectful as possible, but also, informative, and I want my audience to enjoy the live stream. So if I say that he's one fry short of a Happy Meal, or that the lights are on but nobody's home, he might not be the sharpest tool in the shed now. That's not, I'm not saying this with venom or vitriol. See, I've never obsessed, even when I was talking about Hillary Clinton's servers, I never said anything that she was like an immoral person, which you could make your own judgment there. But I never talked about morality. I never said she was a bad person. I never said Biden was a bad person. they make these things about Trump. Trump is a better human being than any of these individuals. It was Trump that brought Americans home from never-ending military conflict that all of these people sent Americans to. And so it's Trump that stands up to intelligence reports that are wrong. It's Trump that stands up to media that we know routinely 24/7 aims to deceive and lie all the time. Media will tell you the truth, and then they'll lie by omission, or they'll just, give you an overtly deceptive statement where it's taken like 5 years now, no, 7, 8 years now, 7 years for people to finally, learn that Trump never said the fine people hoax that they accuse him of saying. Okay, he was referring only to people who wanted to keep statues up, not the 1930s and 1940s Germans. And even Snopes now, it took 7 years for them to say, yeah, that's false. But let's continue.
Can you still beat Trump?
You're probably waiting for the answer, weren't you? Well, we heard it ourselves with our super audio imposer that said, yes, I still think I can beat Trump. He didn't say that exactly in those words, but yes, he's still confident that he can beat Donald Trump. The President of the United States is making his 5th trip to that battleground state of Wisconsin. At least there, the polls are tighter than they are in other battleground states. We'll see how it all sorts out. Dennis Kucinich with us right now, the former mayor of Cleveland, the former Ohio congressman, and now running for Congress again, this time as an...
I'm far more conservative now than I was back in the day, but I respect this man because he did go up against the establishment of both parties. And I believe President Obama's administration, I believe, according to Congressman Kucinich, spied on him numerous times.
Independent. Then it's always a delight to see you. What do you think of this whole predicament with Joe Biden and other Democrats now saying, maybe it's time to hang it up? Donors are abandoning him, some big ones. Are you concerned? What do you think?
Well, first of all, it's great to see you, Neil.
Same here.
President Biden is going to be pushed out. What would happen if he was? There'd be a fight over the presidential nomination, vice presidential nomination. That is what would tear the party apart. And the party was torn in 1968, but that was because of Vietnam. And the President Johnson at that time was looking at primary opponents.
Right.
Got to remember, in 2024, the DNC rigged the primaries. There's no opposition over war spending. The election's not over, Neil.
So here you are. Maybe you're adding to this mix by running as an independent to take back a congressional seat. So there are those who are going to say you're hurting Democrats doing that, your old party.
Well, first of all, my candidacy as an independent, I'm running in a Republican district. And I've always been able to be very successful with Republican voters. And the message now is it's about the economy. And the people know me in this district. They know me very well. I'm someone who's served people, and I've done it without fear or favor.
Right.
So I'm confident going in. But as far as the larger election picture in Ohio, I think it's fair to say that President Trump has a substantial lead in Ohio.
Are you supporting Donald
Democratic
Trump?
Candidates. It's about the economy.
Are you supporting Donald Trump over Joe Biden?
No, I'm a real independent. I'm not involved in a presidential race at all.
Well, you were involved in Robert Kennedy's campaign, and you left that, you quit that, or forced. I don't want to get into the weeds here, but he thinks he has a good shot at upending these guys. What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure how many ballots he's going to be on. I mean, when I left the campaign last October, I began to focus on what I might be able to do to be of service.
I see.
So I'm not sure where Bobby Kennedy's campaign is going.
Allow me then, Dennis, I did ask Robert Kennedy that very question, talked to him just a couple of days ago. This is what he said on that subject. This is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
I'll be on all 50 states within 3 weeks.
Really?
So, and the reason I'm already on more than half the states, let me put it this way so you understand. I have enough signatures get on the ballot in more than half the states. I just have to hand them in. But the states won't accept them. They won't allow me on the ballot till the end of August because of the way their process works. So it would look to you that I'm only on the ballot in 9 states. But actually, we've done 99% of the work right now.
So bottom line, Robert, just to understand this, I'm sorry to jump on you. You're saying you will be on all 50 state ballots by Election Day.
Oh, yeah, by August. We'll be on 4 weeks from now, we'll be on the ballot in every state.
See, Dennis, I don't just rudely interrupt great.
And that'll hurt Democrats more than Trump, even though I thought initially it might hurt Trump. But people are going to see the Kennedy name. And by the way, I love RFK Jr. I think he's a man of integrity. I think that he's a courageous man. Anyone who goes up against the system or the machine or isn't afraid to speak the truth to both political parties and feel the wrath of media that has, consistently, routinely lied to us. We see what's taking place with Biden now. Kucinich, was one of those people. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Donald J. Trump. So I thought Bernie Sanders was that person. Definitely not. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. And I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. You can see that and my writing on hagoodman.com. People say, well, why do you keep bringing that up? It's like, well, there's new people who subscribe every day, thank God, to this channel. I went to Trump because I want a great economy and I want an anti-war presidency, okay? You can debate, but there's no debate. Anyone who says, well, he did this, I never said he's a pacifist. I said that he's not. He will not send Americans off to a never-ending military conflict because an intel report told him to do so. Every other president prior to Trump would do that, aside from, well, we can debate that. But anyway, let's continue. Actually, you're looking at pretty much the end of the Democratic Party, ladies and gentlemen. The end of the modern reincarnation of the Democratic Party. So Democrats are not the way they used to be. The last, 10 years of Democrats, you're not going to see the next, the 10 years from now, Democrats are going to be very different than the Democratic Party you see today, because Trump will single-handedly, in his own unique way, dismantle. He's doing it. He's not even dismantling them. They're dismantling themselves. What they did with Biden, by the way, I find it embarrassing, but also amusing, but really bad for the country, what Democrats are doing. Even though I'm not a fan, Biden is probably the worst president since George W. Bush. Maybe the only reason I say Bush was worse is because he began an era of never-ending military conflict, but Biden has been an abysmal failure. But still, what they're doing with him is so arrogant. It's just disgraceful what Democrats have done to this man. If you were going to replace him and you knew you were going to replace him, which of course they did, why couldn't you? I mean, they're going to go with Hillary Clinton this time around, almost certainly. I think they will. But what they did to this country, to this man, to Biden himself, what Democrats have done is sinister. Let's continue.
And here we go. Time for the hot topic of the hour. President Biden hitting the campaign trail in Wisconsin today. He is refusing to step aside, despite mounting concerns about his fitness. Biden admitting his failure on the debate stage in a radio interview with Earl Ingram. Listen to this.
I had a bad night. And the fact of the matter is that, I screwed up. I made a mistake. Look, I came back.
That's a deceitful statement. It wasn't a bad night. It was a bad 4 years. He has been communicating in the same manner for 4 years. Democrats were forced to endure an hour and a half or 2 hours of it, and therefore, and then they were embarrassed, even though the entire 4 years they were just fine with it. So you have to talk about, they call Trump like, a psychopath, or, he's arrogant, or he's belligerent, or whatever, boorish. Trump is a far better human being than any of the Democratic strategists that catapulted Biden into this position only to replace him in the most disgraceful manner. This is an absolute embarrassment for the country. Even though I am a strong supporter of Trump, of the country, of America, of a better economy. I'm anti-war. I do not want, I'm against counterinsurgency conflicts. I've written against them in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, other publications, Roanoke Times. I want a pro-economy, anti-endless military president. That's Trump. I want somebody with enough guts and integrity to stand up to intel agencies, to media, to the machine. And they say, oh, Trump, people who support Biden, they say, oh, Republicans, they care about the moneyed interests. Like, the corporations in Wall Street and corporate America gave more to Biden than they did to Trump. And they gave more to Hillary Clinton. So it's like, again, they're living in a delusional state where they're kind of the 90s Democrats, but they're so not the 90s Democrats. Anyway, let's continue.
I was in a situation where I was wired. I didn't have a good debate. That's 90 minutes on stage. Look at what I've done in 3.5 years.
Well, this is President Trump is challenging Biden to a high.
Yeah, look what he's done. His foreign policy has led to unmitigated catastrophes around the world. So much so we can't really talk about it because, you do have algorithms protecting people from the truth. We have interest rates that are double to actually more than triple for mortgage rates. So mortgage rates were about less than 3% with Trump. Around 3%, sorry. Now they're at 7% with Biden. You're paying over double in terms of a mortgage. In New York or Los Angeles, that could be the difference between a $5,000 a month mortgage and a $10,000 a month mortgage. Okay? You're in a blue state and you despise Trump and you love Democrats and you'll vote for anybody with a heartbeat. You're paying literally double every month in terms of a mortgage payment for a new home. That's a fact. Because of Biden's policies, because he went after oil and gas and then flooded the country full of strategic petroleum reserves and then said inflation was temporary. Do you know that? You remember when his administration said inflation was temporary? Were they lying, or were they being deceitful, or just stupid? Again, if the Washington Post used the same standard to judge the statements of Democrats, you get 50, 80, 60, 90,000 lies from Democrats. And they said Trump had 40,000 lies. It's all branding and marketing with Democrats. But anyway, let's continue.
Higher stakes debate, writing on X. I have the answer to the crooked Joe Biden incompetence puzzle. Let's do another debate, but this time no holds barred. An all-out discussion with just the two of us on the stage. Biden met with a group of Democrat governors at the White House on Wednesday night. He reportedly told them he needs to sleep more, work fewer hours, and not attend any events after 8 p.m. The New York Times is reporting that the governor of Hawaii in that meeting asked Biden about his
This is by design. Again, we saw from the DNC emails that Democrats don't have a functioning primary, and they will do anything. They will orchestrate a theatrical performance, lie to even their own voters, cheat Bernie Sanders, and they'll be so effective with their deception and their deceit that even Bernie Sanders will say, "Oh, Vladimir helped me? Oh my goodness, I don't want your help, Vladimir." And so they're used to, like, the average progressive or socialist or far left or communist, they will vote Democrat. And they're used to accepting this behavior from the Democratic Party because they think Trump is so much worse, even though actually Trump is like more liberal from a traditional sense on foreign policy, much better. We had record low poverty. You have these left-leaning publications who claim to care about the working class. Trump was the best president for the working class, far better than President Obama. We lost manufacturing jobs before Democrats shut down the economy. We were adding hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs with Trump. He renegotiated trade deals, USMCA instead of NAFTA, focused on building the economy, leveled tariffs at China that unions wanted, and then the head of the main union, AFL-CIO, is against Trump, which is hilarious. And the tax cuts, by the way, which Democrats kept. They keep railing on the tax cuts, but they haven't expired yet, and in Congress they did nothing to change the tax code. But anyway, see, again, a lot of Democrats are wonderful, morally superior, highly educated, liberal atheists. Their religion is Democrat. That's what they worship. That's why they purge themselves from anyone who doesn't believe. Non-believers, if you will. Trump is essentially a representation of the end of their political religion. That's why they're hyperventilating and hysterical and completely apoplectic every time they think of Trump.
Health, and he said, quote, Mr. Biden replied that his health was fine. It's just my brain. Joe, some in the room reportedly thought that this was a joke, but others had apparently in the room.
So I don't believe this for a second. I don't believe that if he had stated that it wasn't deliberate. I don't believe for 1 second that, hey, man, it's my brain. Man, hey, cornflakes, man. It's my brain. Man. Hey, man. Oh, yeah. Oh, come on, man. I don't believe that he's like, my health is fine, but it's my brain. My decrepit old brain. Come on, man. Come on now. Want to do push-ups, man? I don't believe he said that because the New York Times and Washington Post routinely publish articles where Trump reportedly wanted to sell the country to Martians, reportedly, according to people familiar with the matter, according to 50 former current U.S. officials. Shay, possibly, according to the hairdresser of the proctologist of the neighbor of the second cousin, twice removed, of a Democratic strategist, Trump, said that he despises all people of every background. Oh my God! He said this, reportedly. So, I don't believe any of this. This is just nonsense. This is like a dysfunctional high school where people, like, reputations are ruined because of deceitful, sinister gossip.
Reportedly thought that this was a joke, but others had apparently stern looks on their faces and were very concerned and did not think that that was funny at all.
It would be a really funny joke if he was in full, cognitive ability and he made a joke about his age, about how his brain is going. The problem with this is that this is one of those jokes that's partially, if not entirely true. I think the Biden campaign is in the throngs of its death rattles right now. It's only a question of whether Joe Biden is the nominee today or whether he simply loses the election. You can't be in this catch-22 where you are in such poor mental health, where the best defense for you is to tell people that you're going to only work part-time. You wouldn't give your nephew the advice of telling some job interview he's at to go tell him you're going to sleep more, work less, and just mail most of it in. You wouldn't give anyone that advice to go to a job interview. And yet here you have Joe Biden on essentially an interview with the American public telling us he's going to be a part-time POTUS.
And the poll numbers have fallen, Jerry, exponentially since the debate, whether it's the New York Times polling or the Wall Street Journal poll. We'll get into that. But he made a number of mix-ups yesterday, Jerry. He had this 4th of July speech at the White House. Watch this.
I've been all over the world with you. I've been in and out of battles anyway. We met with American veterans, some of them about 12 or 14 over 102 years old. You know, I was in that World War I cemetery in France. And the one that one of our colleagues, the former president, didn't want to go and be up there. I probably shouldn't even say it anyway.
This after.
And everyone's laughing because they want to make him look good, and they think like they're trying desperately to decipher if that actually is part of his personality. So they're like laughing and, oh, we're in on the joke. Oh, you're so funny and you're so charming. It's your unique wit and charm. See, the nicest people, the people that aren't as full of vitriol and venom, are actually Trump supporters. Generally, compared to liberal Democrats who put who made hashtag wrong Trump trend on Twitter, and then there was a policy of not being belligerent on Twitter, and of course they let that go before Elon Musk. You can't find more people who are enraged and venomous, full of vitriol, venom, angry, vicious, nasty, mean than the morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats, who, by the way, I saw that even before Trump was president. I saw that against Bernie Sanders. The way they go after the left Democrats. I mean, there is no left. The way that I can go on forever. If the tables were turned and it was Trump who spoke like Biden, Kimmel, Colbert, the Washington Post, Joe Scarborough, all of these people would be so venomous and mean-spirited towards Trump. I don't see anyone really doing that. Everyone on the right is saying, what's going on with this man? They're not disparaging him or trying to mock him or insult him the way they would with Trump. But anyway, that's
After new reports reveal the president did have a medical checkup following that disastrous debate, which administration officials said, he has a cold. White House stated he was seen to check on his cold and was recovering well. But remember, KJP, Jerry, told reporters who were asking about this, the president had not been seen by a doctor since February. And the Washington Post is even now penning this hypothetical withdrawal speech for the president titled, "What if Biden spoke these words?" Here's what they write. "My season of service is nearing its close. This was a hard truth to face, but it is the natural course of things." This is not a real speech from Biden. Remember, everybody, it's an opinion piece from the Post. Your reaction, Jerry?
I have to tell you, this is simply astonishing, and I think we're headed into the teeth of a constitutional crisis over this, because ignore whether he's making mistakes or not, which is not what it is in the first place. What's the reality of the situation, and what do we need to do, and how do we get there? Those are the questions we're facing now. I think Biden is acting as if this is a test of his resolve. It's not a test of his resolve. It's a test of his mental fitness, and unfortunately, he's not the best person to answer that question. Just this week, for the first time, I heard a mainstream media reporter in the White House press conference ask, do we have a test of the president's brain? Do we know his cognitive impairment? That's the kind of information we need right now. That's what we need to know. And I don't see it coming from this White House.
Well, and also, John, if you look at the Wall Street Journal poll that came out on Wednesday, his cognitive issues, his physical issues aside, he also got incredibly low ratings when it came to policy, which
never, and I'm not a fan of Biden, but what they're doing to Biden is absolutely despicable. Never let anyone try to insult you or demean you, or never let anyone try to insult or demean anyone you care about with, here, take this cognitive test. Here, take the, it's like, you can, if you can see, you don't need an appeal to authority to know that something is wrong. The smell test, it doesn't pass the, your lying eyes. You can, people have basic logic and reasoning skills. I don't need to go to a financial advisor and be told by an expert I have to put my life savings into the latest cryptocurrency from the Kardashians. I don't need to know. I don't need to do this. Even if an expert says, do this, it's very good for your life savings, I wouldn't do it. So you don't need an appeal to authority for everything. You don't need to hear from some kind of expert or, professional that Biden is one fry short of a Happy Meal. The lights are on, but nobody's home. We know this because we can see if somebody's walking down the street and they're yelling at the air and they're like flailing their arms and they're grunting and, talking to themselves and barking at cars, that maybe that person has, some kind of issues. You don't need, did that person take a test? You don't need that type of valid, you don't need a test to validate the obvious. But let's continue.
Which is immigration, which is the economy. And voters are saying they don't like the performance they've seen on that side as well.
That is a very good point. And I and many others are under the impression that Joe Biden wasn't the one making these policy decisions. There were other people involved. I'd love to know who was running the show while Joe Biden was deteriorating mentally.
Former Bill and Hillary Clinton and President Obama, lifelong advisors, lifelong career government officials who worked in President Obama's administration, worked for Hillary Clinton's tenure as Secretary of State. Okay, that's who was running the show. That's why everything's a complete catastrophe. Because they're even more inept than Biden. Okay, but if they could catapult Biden to the White House, what do you think they could do with Hillary Clinton, who, of course, committed major crimes with servers, but is actually an eloquent individual who, she has a certain charm. I'm not saying that I find her that charming. I'm just saying that she will have a built-in base of voters. Built-in. Liberal women from the ages of 45 to 75 will 100% vote for Hillary Clinton without a shadow of a doubt. And, everyone else might not, but the point is Hillary Clinton can raise money very quickly. She has a built-in base of support throughout not only the U.S., but around the world. Okay, she has a 5%. I give her 5 to 10% chance of actually becoming president. God forbid. But I think they're going to go with Hillary Clinton. I've been saying this for about 30 years. And I will be vindicated, if not this year, then 4 years from now. She'll run every 4 years. So, her candidacy is like the Punxsutawney Phil of politics. It'll be every 4 years. Or it'll be like every season. But listen, what can I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? Unfortunately, it's taking place. I have been telling you that they were going to replace Biden. If you watch this channel, you know that I've been telling you this. And God bless you all. Thank you for watching. Again, I do apologize. There are times I'm going to be late, and I do apologize. Sometimes 20, sometimes a half an hour, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. So I apologize for the inconvenience, people. But to my viewers, thank you so very, very, very much. God bless you all. To my viewers everywhere around the world, in the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Nigeria, Korea, thank you so very, very much. God bless you. See you tomorrow, everyone. I should have a live stream tomorrow at around about 3 p.m. Pacific, Eastern. And he's essentially already resigned. It's just a matter now of the formality. Kamala Harris would then, he could remain president, actually. Resign. He could remain president, give up his nomination, call for an open nomination, and then Hillary Clinton becomes the person opposite Trump. I want you to dream of that tonight, ladies and gentlemen. God bless America. And I think it would be a fantastic competition because 2016, we still live in. I'm actually a hologram of 2016. When they cheated Bernie Sanders, we crossed the Rubicon into political madness. I mean, I blame Bernie also. God bless him. Probably a very good individual, very spineless in terms of actually a political, a politician. Didn't even address the fact he was cheated. But when they did that, they then realized they could get away with pretty much anything. Then they accused Trump of things he didn't do, created a new Cold War. If they did all of that, you know, the embarrassing reality of replacing a sitting president who has already won his primary and became the nominee, all they have to do is set up an actual, all they have to do before we go, this is how it works. If you say, I wasted a whole hour with this man only for something interesting in the last couple of seconds, here we go. He doesn't have to step down as president. He can remain president. He can step down and then Kamala Harris can be president for a couple of months. But he doesn't have to. He could remain president. He could withdraw from the Democratic nomination process. They can have, they just make things up anyway. It's like if you had like a treehouse with your friends when you were 8 years old, and then you're like, and then we're a part of this new club, and I'm the president. It's the same thing. So they can say, oh, well, it's an open it's an open convention, and Biden's delegates, who are they going to go to? And then, you know, they're not going to go to anyone else but Hillary Clinton. Nobody has unless the former First Lady Michelle Obama wanted to run, but I don't think she wants to run. She's the only person who I think could probably defeat Clinton within that nomination process, which is really a theatrical performance. But Hillary gets every delegate because all of the people around Biden were former Hillary advisors and friends of the Clintons. So anyway, and who raises the most money? I think the Clintons. Okay. And then that's it. It's not that big of a deal. And then they have to, you know, the whole, you know, timeline of, oh, well, you have to write in the names, and, you know, each state has it. It's like, well, they'll just mess with that also. That might help them, you know, democracy things as well. Anyway, hit subscribe, people. God bless you. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. We are on our way to 3.